When you start a business and you start to talk about somebody, you're never in a vacuum with no competition, unless you're just extremely lucky. And if there's going to be competition, that means somebody else knows your business as well as you do when you get started. And if you walk into a competitive environment and they still know more about the business than you do and more about your customers, you're going to lose. But most people don't consider that. They don't do the work. They don't learn more about their industry. They don't know even about their business. So you've got to put in the effort to know more about your industry than anybody else. That's the brains part, and that's the effort part as well. Because look, if you're competing with me, you better know what you're doing, otherwise I'm gonna kick your ass. You're not gonna outwork me. The combination is usually what kills businesses early on more than anything.
Do you think there's a proven formula that if a brand rookie guy, do you think if he follows a formula, he's guaranteed to make it as an entrepreneur?
No.
Okay, so you don't believe there's a guarantee to make it?
No, because who knows who you're going to be competing with. So if you put two people both following the same formula, both in the same industry, which one wins? Maybe they both can win and both be successful, but I don't think there's a default template for success, but I think there's things that you can do to put yourself in the best position to succeed. There are things that if you do them, you put yourself in the best position to succeed, but if you just walk into a buzzsaw and somebody else is doing them a little bit better, it happens. I knew I was wired to be excited about business. How or why, I don't know, but and there's certain guys that have the genetics to jump out of the gym. When they golf, they have the muscle memory and the discipline. Dirk Nowitzki may not be the most talented guy in the NBA, but his discipline and his focus to do what's necessary to be successful, he's willing to do, and combine it with being 7 feet tall and being skilled, makes him an amazing basketball player. So it's understanding what your skill set is, finding the right place to use those skills, and then going for it. Whatever industry you pick, if you outwork everybody, if you try to be a little smarter than everybody, if you try to be a better salesperson than everybody, if you try to be better prepared than everybody, you've got your best chance. Because if you don't do it and somebody else does, work like someone's trying to take it all away from you. That's kind of the way I look at it. My dad did upholstery on cars. My mom did whatever odd jobs. But my dad was always like, if you want something, you have to earn it. And to his credit, he never said, no, you can't do that. He never held me back. And so I think that was as important as anything. And sometimes being young and trying things, you're so naive and you don't know any better. All you do is learn. My dad was like, go for it. Why not? What have you got to lose? There's a whole realm of things in any business. Here's the business you're in, and here's 1,000 things that influence whether or not you're going to be successful. I can tell by the questions they ask me. So all I have to do is say, okay, what do you want to know? People like to say the only stupid questions are the ones you don't ask, and that's not right. Because the questions you ask tell me, tell whoever, more about you than anything else you do. In particular, it tells me about your preparation.
Do you think there needs to be a healthy level of paranoia?
Oh, absolutely.
There needs to be.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I always say, for every one of my businesses, I said, what would I do to kick my own? You're right. So whatever business you have, there's somebody trying to put you out of business. And it's better for you to figure out how they're going to do it rather than they do it. And so, yeah, that's being paranoid. And so you have to be paranoid. You have to anticipate other people's next moves. And you can't ever, downplay the competition. They're out there trying to take you down, and they're not just going to sit still. And if you're good, really, really good, you're going to inspire them to work even harder, faster, better. And so you have to be, very self-aware of what you're good at and what other people are good at.
How does one entrepreneur increase the speed in areas that they can increase? How fast can I grow?
Yeah, I mean, it just depends. You've got to know your own skill set, and you've got to know how that fits within your company's life cycle. Some companies are a slow grind, and you just have to understand that, and you've just got to bide your time until it starts to click and then grow with it quickly. If you're trying to release a product that needs to be ubiquitous, you've got to go as fast as you can and
release a product, like a launch.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people who will say perfection is the enemy of profitability, right? And that doesn't mean you have to wait till it's a perfect product. CyberDust is a perfect example. It's been a slow growth grind because we want feedback. We want to keep on learning. It really just depends on what the product is. Is it a barbershop? Is it an app? Is it a service? Is it a product? The key is looking for the low-hanging fruit. What customers are willing to write you a check or commit to it, so that they're willing to integrate it into their daily lives or integrate it into their daily business. And so getting a commitment either through time or revenue is typically what I look for. And so if I can get a commitment then I'm going to be able to learn. I'm going to see how they use it. Do they sustain usage? And then once I get the next one, then I can ask for referrals, and then the next one, then the next one, and I just try to ramp it up. In terms of speed of growth, you got to get that first customer first. And then when you get that first, what did you learn? Reiterate, get that next customer. And then hopefully as you learn more and more through the process, then the next one becomes faster.
You got a lot of people that say, forget about school, drop out of school.
They're idiots.
So you think they're idiots?
They're idiots.
Tell me why.
If you're going to have and run a business, if you don't understand accounting, you're already behind the 8 ball. There's people that don't understand the concept of, the difference between profits and cash. You're profitable, but your cash is going down, not understanding a breakdown. If you're so self-motivated that you can take an online course in accounting and teach yourself everything, you're way ahead of the game anyways, but most people aren't. And I'm not saying you have to go to an expensive school. I don't care if you go to a community college and take accounting and spend $99 for the class. Spending the money forces you to be more obligated to do it, but accounting, finance, marketing, sales, that's the language of business. And so while it's possible to teach yourself these things, and while it's possible to hire them, when you're starting your own company, you don't want to have to spend money hiring an accountant. If you've gone through all these classes, you don't have to hire a lawyer to incorporate, right? You can probably figure out yourself. And so your cost of opening up a business drops. The thing I learned at Indiana that was more important than anything else, I learned how to learn. And learning became far more important to me, because the one certainty in business is that it's always going to be changing. If you're not always learning, to this minute, if I'm not continuously learning, if I'm not just absorbing as much as I can absorb, someone else is going to kick my ass.
Do I need to get a bachelor's degree?
I don't see necessarily you have to have the degree, you have to have the knowledge. The greatest source of your paranoia should be knowledge. If someone else knows more than you do, and if you're not learning, if you don't know how to learn, if you don't have a thirst for learning and acquiring information, you're SOL. I was a hustler.
Even in high school?
Oh yeah, and into business in a big way. But I don't think people saw to me. It wasn't like people looked at me and go, oh, he's destined to succeed.
So in high school, you were the fun guy. Were you always the guy that made people laugh? Were you very competitive? Were you the sports guy?
I was always competitive.
I
was into sports. I wasn't. Great at it. I was just decent. Wasn't a technology guy. I mean, I was into learning. I was a business guy. I was the guy reading about business all the time, reading business books all the time. Going to junior achievement. I was a junior achievement geek.
Why though? Why were you reading business books?
Because that's what I knew. I mean, I was wired that I always You know, I started my first business when I was 12. I was buying and selling baseball cards, buying and selling stamps. Anything I could do to make money, I was hustling and trying to do. So,
Baseball cards.
Yeah, baseball cards, you name it. I mean, I grew up in Pittsburgh. Back then, that's how you had your favorite players, and you didn't see, they weren't on TV every day. You only read about them in the newspaper. There was no internet, and so baseball cards were a way to connect. And so I would, probably even less than 12 years old, I would go out and buy a bunch of baseball cards that I collected, and I would package. I would say, okay, you're guaranteed to have a Pittsburgh Pirate in this package, and I would charge 3 times as much. And I'd set up on this park bench down in the park down in Scott Township where I grew up. And I'd have these little sales, and it was great. I made money, and I mean, it was, and I learned as much about business when I was 9, 10, and 12 as I learned any other time.
You don't run one company. You run many companies. You're doing deals all the time. And there's this notion that you hear multitasking. Your brain, if I were to take 100%, I'll get 10% here, 7% here, 6% here. How do you process all of it here in your mind?
I process things very quickly, and that's always been my strength. I can identify what's going on typically faster. Than anybody and grind right through it. And plus, because I force everybody to email or cyber dust, it's all coming from one flow. And so I'm not bouncing from meeting to meeting thinking, okay, what did we say in that meeting? We're having to take notes, and then we're having somebody take notes. It's like, it's already in writing, it's in an email, and if it's in cyber dust, it's like having a face-to-face. And when I see it, I respond to it immediately. That allows me to keep things organized.
Biggest difference between being a millionaire and a billionaire, what would you say?
The difference between having a penny and $1,000. It's a huge difference. I mean, I've been blessed. I made a lot of money at a relatively young age and was a millionaire a few times over, but just in terms of what you can do and the opportunities it buys, there's no comparison.
At the billionaire mark.
Yeah. I want people to see that if I can do it, they can do it.